Hey folks, so do you remember this little bowl that I got from the car boot sale? I thought we would try to restore this somehow. It's probably going to be a fairly quick video of a little bit of a restoration of what you can do really with something that you kind of find you know, lying around or chucked away, cast away, forever to be forgotten, and we can try to restore this and make this into something really cool. Let's chuck this on the lathe. First of all, what we need to do is we need to try to, because it's already been turned and made into a bowl, so it's a little bit more difficult in the sense of getting it mounted initially. So the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to mount this way, and I've got one of these really big chucks. I'll show you. I've got one of these huge chucks, and all you do with this is you just move these down to where you want them to be for the size of the bowl. And then this will sit in here like that, and then you clamp it down. Once that's in there secured, we can then put a mortise into here. So that's what we're going to need to do, is need to put a mortise into here so that I can reverse chuck it, which will then allow me to put it onto the lathe that way and sort of do something fancy with it and clean it up. But initially we need to get that done and then make a little area to put an emblem in it and everything else. So let's get this on the lathe. It's pretty big, pretty heavy, but it's a really awesome bit of kit. So I'm going to go and get this on the lathe now and see what we can do with this thing. Right, so that's on there now and it's pretty secure, but where this is quite a large chuck, well, you can't spin this that fast. So I think it might tell you on here actually the speed, but if it doesn't, trust me, you can't. Okay, so we've got the mortise in there and I've made a little hole there for my emblem. I think I do want to put my emblem in here, although technically it's not handmade by me, but I don't have any emblems that say restored by me. I'm going to put an emblem in it anyway because I am going to do a bit of work on it and try to revive it. So and it will look better with an emblem in it. So so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to sand this back a bit. I've got a bit of 180 grit sandpaper on the Robert Sorbet sanding system pad thingamajig stick, and see if we can get this sanded back a bit. So this is what it's looking like so far, and look at the grain in this. It's absolutely fantastic. And this is kind of what I sort of hoped that it was going to be when I saw this piece. There's got a bit of damage here, but I don't really think there's too much we can do about that. We could ground it down, but it is quite deep, and I know I've gone quite deep here anyway for the mortise, but I'm just reluctant on whether or not to take that out. I might see if I can take it out, but I just want to be very careful with doing that because I don't want to go too deep in there. But I'll give that a bash. But that's kind of like, you know, it's had some damage before. But so I'm only going to go to here because when I flip it over, I can finish the that top bit when I flip it over. Just be careful if you're going to use one of these. You get too close to here, and this really does rip your fingers to pieces. So just be really careful with that. So put a bit of sanding sealer on there, and the sanding sealer I use is the Chestnut Products cellulose sanding sealer, really cracking stuff. So I'll put a couple of coats of this on, and then I'll go straight into the next step, I think, on this, which is going to be the old trusted Yorkshire grit. Okay, so I'm not sure if the camera was rolling then or not, but it might not have been. But I've managed to now take out those marks. And if you didn't see that on the camera, because I haven't checked back yet, then what I've done is I'm very careful with this, and I did this for a reason. I've used a carbide to just come from the edge and go down, but I've stopped just before I get to the end here, because if I'd have carried on going, then that would have made the mortise smaller, which means I would have had to have gone deeper in the mortise. And I don't have enough stock to do that. So what I've done is I've got rid of the marks by coming in on the edge and stopping here, sort of phased, I've kind of graded it out, but made this higher. Now what that's going to happen, what that's going to do now is this is going to sit proud here, but that's fine, because that's actually going to look quite nice, because it's going to give like a shadow effect when it's sat down on the base. It's going to just sit on this rim, and this is going to be, you're going to be able to see just slightly under there, so it's going to give a shadow effect. I actually think that's going to look quite nice, but it's got out what we wanted to get out, and that looks really quite nice now. So I quite like that. So that's had a couple of coats of sanding sealer, so we're going to get out the Yorkshire grit. Right, so we're now going to put a bit of Yorkshire grit on this. Put this on with the lathe stopped. Now some people, you can put it on, you know, with the lathe running if you want, but I actually think the instructions are to keep it off. But I presume you might be able to do it any other way, but I do it like this, and this works out quite nice for me. And this stuff is fantastic, so just give a good old amount of Yorkshire grit on here, rub it all in, and then what we'll do is we'll fire the lathe up on a sort of a, not very fast, bring that down a bit, and we'll just rub it in with the same paper towel. Right, there we go. Then I just use a cleaner bit of paper towel just to kind of wipe off any excess grit that we don't want. There we go, look at that. Absolutely fantastic. Lovely bit of wood that is. I think that's walnut, I think. Is it walnut? I'm not too sure actually, but it's a very lovely piece. Right, next up is WOODWAX 22. Love this stuff. This is really quite cool stuff. So again, I'll put this on with the lathe stopped initially, and then just give it a good old rub in. You can really get a fantastic shine just from using this WOODWAX. You know, and not always like a really, you know, like a really good shine. If you want a really good shine, I'll show you what to do next. But this stuff really does come up nice. So got that on, and then I'll fire up the lathe. So it's kind of like a process really. You know, you've got your sanding sealer you want to put on first, then you got the Yorkshire grit next, then the WOODWAX 22, and this is the way I do it. Obviously not, you know, it's not everyone's cup of tea, I doubt, although we do like a good cup of tea. And not only does it give it a you know, nice shine, it will give it a bit of protection there as well. See? So you get a really nice shine just from using the WOODWAX 22. However, I am a man with extra shine, and I do like a bit of extra shine on my products, my items, my projects. So I'm going to use good old Sheila-wax, or Shallow-wax. I still don't know how to pronounce it. So this, I will put this one on whilst the lathe is spinning. And again, you could probably put it on stopped, but I put it on spinning. And then this is just a friction polish, so this works when it gets hot. So we just hold it on here, a bit of pressure. Hold it, give it a bit of a rub, bit of pressure. And suddenly it will start to pop. And you'll start to see the results. And boom, There we go. Now that has a bit of shine on that. See, so it really does depend. Whether you want a really pop-in shine or you just want to shine. Because, as I say, each product does something different. You know, Yorkshire Grit will give a good shine, but it's not a finish. But you need to use it because it's part of the process. So, Yorkshire Grit it, well, sand and sealer it, good 2 or 3 coats of sand and sealer, Yorkshire Grit, WOODWAX 22, you can leave it with the WOODWAX 22 on, that's done. But, if you're a shine man, or a shine woman, if you're a shine person, and you want a really pop-in shine on it like I do, then you go with the Sheila Wax. That looks lovely, jubbly. So, that's kind of ready now, that's finished, that base is finished. So, what we need to do now is we need to just take this out of here, because we no longer need this piece now, because we've pretty much finished the base of that. Just check to see if the emblem fits in there still. Yeah, that fits in there really nice. We'll pop that back out again. Now, we'll just double check to make sure that the chuck, where's the chuck? Right, so now we're just going to check to see if this fits on the chuck properly. So I'll just put this on here just to double check before I go release the other chuck. Open this up, there we go, that fits on there really nicely. So that should be fine. So I can now safely release this chuck. Get this one on here. It's a bit fiddly sometimes, just get the thread lined up, but there we go. It's on there. Always make sure we give this a bit of a tighten up as well. When you're taking chucks off all the time, you've got to make sure that this is tightened up, even though it's hand tight, and that sometimes might be alright, but just give it a little bit of a squeeze with some tools. Double check to see if this runs okay. Yeah, it's a little bit wobbly, but I'm not too fussed about that. I think that's just because the piece of wood really is a little bit wonky. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up. Now what we might do, so I might try to do something a little bit different with this. I might try and put some Milliput in this, I'm not too sure yet. There, look at this. So I've just turned this around, just started sanding this, and look at it. Look at the wood. It's absolutely fantastic. Look at the grain in this. You can see that all right. I'll put the light down there. Look at that. See, this is perfect. See, this, I just picked this up from a car boot sale. You know, it's just like an old bit of wood, just an old pot. You know, nothing going on with it. It's just sat there, wasting away, and bring it back into the shop and just restore it. You know, this is the most exciting thing about it. You can restore these, so you know, bring these back to life. Now that's just a normal pot, but I think what I'm going to do with this, I think I am going to put some Milliput inlay in this, just to really pop it out, bring it out to be something completely different. Because the Milliput against the wood is going to look really nice. Okay, so what we're going to have to do with this is we're going to have to put some grooves in this. So depending upon what we want with the Milliput. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a large groove and then input some Milliput inlay just in one section of it. Probably in the middle somewhere. So I'll measure it out and just see if we can get it dead in the centre somehow. So I've marked this out, so got the centre here. So I'm just going to use a pen and just mark out roughly the first line. So there's the first line, and then the second one. So that's our centre line. Now what we need to do is we just need to groove this out. So if you haven't used Milliput before, this is Milliput Putty Resin. This is the black one. So there's only a thin line that I've carved out of here, so we just need a thin, little small piece. This stuff goes like miles, goes a long way. So just going to cut a little slither in off of here. So we didn't do, so let's cut that much. That's probably too much to be fair, but let's cut that. Better to be you know, cut less than we need, just in case. We can always add more. And there's the black. So you've got one that's like the putty, and then you've got one that's like the hardener, and then you just need to mix this up. So what we need to do is just mix this until it's just one solid colour. So just keep mixing and mixing. And mixing. So you've just got to keep doing that for quite a while. Right, there we go. So that's pretty much mixed up now. As you can see, it's just one solid colour. So what we'll do is we will now go and inlay this into the grooves. Bits of the Milliput, we just roll them up into a hand, and then we will just squeeze them in to the little gaps, a little groove. So try and make this as this has probably got way too much Milliput here. I think what we're going to do is I think I'm going to go with the black and then white, but I don't know yet. I might just stick all black in here just to sort of break it up. Haven't decided yet. Okay, so the black is now laid in there. So what we need to do now is mix up another colour, which I think is going to be white. I think white would be quite cool. And then we just need to lay the white in there. So same process again, just mixing up the white and just make sure that you've got the Milliput mixed really well. And then we'll roll it into little snakes, tiny little baby snakes. Right, there we go. So we just need to leave that overnight now because it has to set, and it generally takes, well, I always leave it overnight. You can probably come back to it a little bit sooner, but it's best to leave it overnight. At least then you know it's kind of done and set properly then, and it'll be pretty hard by tomorrow morning. So we'll get back on this tomorrow morning, and this will come off really nicely. So you don't have to worry about all the mess that it creates. You won't see any of that when we take all of this off. And hopefully we'll have two really nice rings going all the way around the bowl, and that should set it off really nicely. Then we can just finish this off, and then we have our restored bowl into a Milliput design tiny little bowl, which hopefully will look quite neat, we hope. So we'll come back to that when it's dry. Okay everyone, this is all dried up now and ready to be put back on the lathe. It's pretty solid, so you can now watch the reveal of me taking this off. This is quite satisfying, this is. It's almost like peeling off those stickers from the back of your, like, you know, the protection stickers like we had on the emblem before. It's almost like that really. To reveal the thin line that's going to appear around here is going to look really cool. So let's get this back on the lathe and get this one finished off. is our finished restoration project bowl. You can see the grain is really popped out on this, looks really nice. Puts the Milliput in there, 2 rings of Milliput, which I think look quite different, sort of complements the bowl really from being just a boring bowl. And then the inside. So it's got quite a nice sort of like feature here as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, it's only tiny, it's only a small bowl, but you know, I saw it at the car boot sale and I thought I'd grab that and make use of it and see if we can restore it up and make something out of it, which is a little bit different than just a boring old little bowl. This hopefully gives you some sort of ideas of maybe, you know, what you can do if you've got one of these little bowls hanging around, you know, at your house, or maybe you could pop out and go to the car boot sale and grab yourself, or a car trunk sale. I'm not really too sure whether they still call, like I said earlier on, still called car boot sales or not everywhere. But yeah, it's just, you know, just go out there and try and find something really. Anything, anywhere. Grab something that's old and just see if you can restore it up. It's quite good fun really. It doesn't have to be a bowl, but anything really that you think that you can find that's really quite old and haggard and tattered, that has really no purpose or use anymore. You know, we could have a little challenge or something. You know, who can come up with something that they found or purchased from a car boot sale, or you know, garage sale, or you know, something like out of a Storage Wars container that you found. You thought, oh, look at this. You know, wonder if we can make something cool out of this. What was, you know, quite a cool looking bowl, I suppose, back in its day. Don't even know how old this is. It's probably quite an old piece of wood. And then try to revitalise it by giving it a new lease of life. Might be quite interesting actually. You can maybe post some of your pictures to me and I could share them on Wednesday's waffle. So if you're up for doing that, then please, you know, go and find something, show the picture of the old product, show the picture of the new product of what you've done. That might be quite good. Maybe we'll pick a winner. Maybe. If you're up for that, then get cracking with your restoration projects and see what you can come up with. So there's mine. I'll put the before and after pictures up as well if I can, or I might just put this one up and, you know, show you some before and after ones later on. But there we go. So just a quick little restoration thing for you. I hope everyone's well. Thanks very much for joining me in the shop. Oh, I'm breaking things all over the place. My shop looks an absolute mess. I've been in here for a few days now making some bits and pieces. It looks an absolute mess. There's so much going on in here. I really do need to get on and clean it up. What I have done is I've saved some shavings which look quite cool. I'll just get them for you. A massive tub of shavings which came off of a project that I did the other day. Well, this came off of the zip vase that I did. If you haven't seen that, check it out. It's somewhere around here now. This all came off of that massive chunk of wood and it looked quite cool, and I thought we could make something from this. That's always quite handy. Try to keep hold of all your shavings. Well, not all of them, otherwise you'll have so much, but you know, try to keep some of this, especially if it looks quite interesting. I've got another one here which I'm going to bring out and make something of this. Now this came from the project that we did, the Alan project. Alan! Do you remember that one? Alan sent this piece of wood over, and again, if you haven't seen that project, that's somewhere around here as well. He sent a piece of wood over and we made something out of that, but I kept all these shavings because that's quite a rare piece of wood. So that's going to come up quite nice. Maybe we'll put some resin in that or do something with that. So I've kept that, and that's been sat around for ages, along with this one, just say from the other week. There we go. I think that's it for today. Thanks very much for joining me. Thanks to all my new subscribers that have come over recently. If we haven't hit 30,000, I think we're pretty close to 30,000 already, because again, I'm trying to get myself a little bit ahead of myself at the moment, so I'm recording a few projects at once so that I'll make sure I've got all the videos, because I'm actually off on holiday again fairly soon. So I want to make sure I've got a project for you for then. So you may be seeing this while I'm away, I don't know. But don't forget guys, it's coming up soon. We've got, where are we now? We're in May now, so we've got UKIWS coming up in June. Actually no, we've got Kansas City in June. We've got UKIWS in July. And so they're the next 2 shows that I'm going to be attending. So if you haven't got tickets for those yet, get yourself some tickets. I'll put links below for those 2 shows, and then maybe I'll see you there. And if you've got your restoration project with you, maybe you could bring it along to show me. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend, and I shall see you again soon. All the best.